Now I'm going to show you something completely different, folks. We're going to do a charcoal type drawing using pastel pencils. And the pastel pencils that we're going to be using here, 270, 181, 199 and probably some white. Not sure about that one yet. Okay, so those are the pencils, and the double-ended eraser is going to be essential, and also the colour shaper, which we'll use a lot. I'm using a cartridge type paper. It's actually a sketching paper, and that's probably the best to use. You can use ordinary cartridge paper as long as it's good quality. You can also use watercolour paper, although that tends to be a bit raggy. But, you know, what suits you really. I'm going to put this, tape it onto a board as usual, and then I'm going to start the ball rolling by using 270 over the whole of the picture, rubbed in with my finger and then done again, so we get a really nice base for the charcoal, dark charcoal, pastel pencils, not charcoal, to follow. But it is going to look a bit like charcoal, but not so messy, folks. And before you start, it's always a good idea to have a sheet or half a sheet of cartridge paper. Actually, I'm using a ivory coloured paper here so that you can see it, and that protects the drawing from your hand as you move along, just as we use with pastel pencils. Now I'm using 181 and start the ball rolling, and what you do is basically you go over, this is the easy bit, you go over the area you've just done. Take a lot of care over it to start with. There really is no hurry on this picture, and you don't want to rush it. So that will be how you do that. The fact that you've got the cushion of 270 underneath it gives you a much better reception for the pastel pencils. You know this already, I don't have to tell you that, but this works really well. Okay, you've got the idea of that now. You don't want to see me go all over these lines, but you can just see it. I'll just do the face because that's the difficult bit. And the hairline there. Now that is actually a shadow, so we want to keep that fairly light. All this will make sense as we go along. Now here, you want to come in here, and the eyebrow, and the nose. It's a good idea to have a nice sharp pencil here, folks. I can't emphasise that enough. A little eye. And there's quite a heavy lid there. Eyebrow going there. It's a bit basic drawing there, really, folks. You can't really go wrong here. Just you'll have a line drawing anyway. If you decide to do this, I will give you one. And so all you've got to do is basically go over the edges. Okay, now that's fine. Now I will complete that, the rest of it, and we're drawing, and then we can start using this charcoal effect. I think you'll like this. Now what we're looking for here is these lines have got to disappear. And this is how we do it. We kind of, I'm going to, at the moment, all I'm going to do is just going to go along one edge. It's always a good idea just to test the water first. You see, this goes on really, really nicely on top of that. Now just here I want it to be a fairly slight. What I'm doing is grading it, as though you would do with a graphite pencil. But it's better than the graphite pencil because it's Pastel has got a lovely softening quality. You see that? Now as you go along, what we're going to do is just going to blend it as we go along, just very lightly, and you'll see how smooth that is. You see how smooth it is? Lovely. Remember, it is charcoal. We're not talking about something that's going to be like a pastel drawing. You know, this is a charcoal drawing, and I think it's going to look fabulous at the end of the day. Now we've also got to think about putting some muscle in. Now it's very, very light. Don't put too much in, and just test the water. How does it smudge? It's lovely. Remember, because we've got white paper to start with, we had white paper. When we use our eraser on this is going to be stunning. Now here, this is going to be dark. So what we want to do here, careful as you can, go over and make that dark. We'll eventually be putting black on it, but that's a little way off. If you were doing a charcoal drawing, you'd get two kinds of charcoal. I think one's called a vine charcoal and one's called a soft charcoal. And the vine charcoal is lighter than the other. Now you see, immediately we have an effect, and that's what we're looking for. So let's just continue. Now just there, we've got another little dip of the arm, so we put that in as well, and then along the top edge we can do the same again. When a line is not a line, it's when it's shaded, and that's what we're going to do now. Put some shading in, create the muscle. I'm being very tentative there because it's a very enjoyable thing to do. I'm sure you'll find this. And do it as you go along too, because you're learning all the time, you're learning. Like that. Bring it down because we want to shade it, so I don't mind some of the shade going down here at all. You see how that already is looking so stunning. Now just on the tip there, we can just be a little bit bolder with our 181, just here and there. And just in there we can be just a little bolder. I think by now you've probably got the idea. So I will continue with this just here, just before I go and advance it, just there, a little bit of depth. And once again we have the shading. Now here we have quite an interesting, in fact that should be just a little tiny bit more bulbous than that, so it'll just come out slightly. I'll make sure your line drawing reflects that, don't worry. Just a little bit there, that's lovely. See, now even I'm getting a little bolder now because I can see how it's going to end up. Now down here we've got the same, but this one, now this can be a fairly light. I tell you for why, because we've got a very dark hair going in, so what we'll do, we'll still put it in, but much lighter than that above, because here we've got the dark hair. Gosh, this is fun. That's going to be dark. That's going to be dark. The whole section of hair here is going to be dark. I'm just going to change it very slightly so we get a little bit more shape to the hair. And I'll just fill that in. Remember what I said, we've got black as another colour, or not a tone shall I say, it's not a colour. It will be going in here in a little while. The other benefit of doing something like this is it teaches you tonal values. When you come to colouring later on, when you get back to pastel pencils or watercolour or whatever medium you're doing, it gives you an idea of how the tonal values and how they can work for you, or you can make them work for you. Now just here I'm going to be a little bit careful, because what I want to do is put a shadow as well, just there, like that, and that will, we can just grade that in again on the face. I didn't necessarily want a hard line there. Makes it more natural, like that. Okay? Right, I'll just carry on down here. Now this, down here is shadow, so we don't want, there's not hair. In fact, the hair and the shadow form together. So what we do there is make that dark there, that's the hair. Then as we come down here, we ease it off. She's in quite heavy shadow. Here we're going to have some shadow on the cheek, and that's going to follow it all the way down here. Now that's going to be light there, here and here's going to be light. So we'll just bring that in like that. I want it dark, dark there. That can come down to there, and we want to make that down to there. Now be careful here, because what I want to do is a very subtle change of tone. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. So keep it light, like that, because here we want the chin to be just a little darker. You see, so one takes over from the other. Tricky, but like I said, it's a lot of fun. So there's our chin. Now we just use our colour shaper. I haven't used the large one yet because I don't think I need it at the moment. This is the more important one to do. It looks as though she's got a beard, doesn't it? Don't worry folks, it all changes. And we have got a eraser if we need it. A little bit of shadow that's coming down there. And once again, use it. You want to build up the shadows in stages. This kind of thing, you don't want to go too mad too quick. I know you can rub it out, but really the idea is not to. You don't want to rub necessarily. Keep rubbing out. That's looking good. Now the shadow comes from there. Now because we've got it on the colour shaper, you can actually use that. Like say for instance here, where we've got a little bit of subtlety coming in from that. We can use it, go even back into it again, and use it to create this fantastic shading effect. And then we need just a little heavier now, there. And that will be a little stronger. And under there, definitely stronger. I've spent quite a lot of time on this because I think it's important that you see what we're trying to achieve with it. Good. And a little bit darker up in there. And I would leave that alone at the moment, because we can always drop back on it. So let's just concentrate now on putting in a little subtlety here. Very, very light, don't want too much. And a little bit there. And again, just here. Very light touch. You don't need, because this is very immediate. The 181, this is why I chose it. Fantastic colour. And the fact that we've got the 270 as a cushion is helping a lot here. I just bring that in very, very carefully. Could really do with my pencil being just a little bit sharper. However, that's all that's coming. Just here now, just there, we have just a very subtle change. And once again, just a feather-light touch with the pencil. Now the line of the nose, here we haven't really got a lot of choice. We've got to create, we've got to have a line on that nose. We can't do too much about it, but what I can do is around it, just here. And you may have seen me do this before. I do a little bobble on the end, you see that? And that gives you then something to work with. We can then put a little triangle here, like that. And that, although she looks peculiar at the moment, all of this will change as we get further along the line. And a little darker there on the top lip. Keep the bottom lip quite light. We don't want that to be too strong. We can have just a very faint. And then we've got a little trace of shading here and here. Now that looks weird until you get your, that's going to be even stronger than that later on. See how that now, using the corner of the colour shaper, that looks stunning, doesn't it? Now you think, you know, when we do portrait work, we use white, don't we, to bring it back. Well, we can't use white here, or we choose not to, because we've already got the white paper underneath. So all we need to do, when the time comes, is just use the eraser, and that will pick back up on all the light. There's the little dark section of the nose. You don't want to overdo the detail side, and I think what I've done there is absolutely perfect. And just there where we've got that little bit of extra dark coming down there, the eye lashes. And the important thing is here, because it looks as though she's got her eyes very, very slightly open. That shadow suggests it. Like that. Lovely. Okay. Now I'm going to leave that at the moment, leave the face, and concentrate on this area, the hand. Now once again, when's a line not a line? When we make it doing like that. And that gives us shadow. What you could do, if you find at any time you're going over the top, you just bring the eraser back, and that takes it back up. Right. Now there, this is her thumb there, is pressing against her face. So we suggest that that is the case. And this is particularly difficult because the hand itself, I've got to sharpen my pencil, folks, so give me a minute. Right, now I've used the sharp pencils just to fill in those fingers. Now, it's not very easy, this, I've got to tell you, if you have a go at it, but you can see what I've done. You're following the reference picture that I'll give you anyway, and do the best you can. After all, people aren't going to look at the hands, are they? Okay, we'll leave that alone now, and what I'm going to do is going to continue. Now, what I'll do now is I've given you enough narration, so what I'll do is I'll work through the remaining picture, and every now and again I'll give you narrative, but basically just watch and you'll see me gradually build this up. What I'm looking for here, just before I do disappear, that mark I've got there is, I just put this in because it's a very subtle change of tone. We're coming from there, and then there's some shadow that goes underneath the breast there, and that's going to be quite a sharp line. I'll build this up a little better than that in a while, but I just wanted to show you where the lines go. We will see them on the reference picture, but this is how you do it. I'm using the side of the pencil just to create the muscles, and there's a little bit of, it's like the rib cage, this is coming down here, and it comes down to there. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment, but it will do as we build this up. And this area here is a shadow that comes in there. So we have a light area just inside there. So just there, which means we've got to build up the colour on the knee, as we did on the arm. Okay, so that's basically what I'll be doing. So I'll break off the narrative now, and you can just enjoy.